Football, so much more than a sport. Football is truly a worldwide phenomenon, a religion, a national pastime, a way of life, and for an increasing number of exceptionally gifted players, a way forward to unheralded fame and fortune. Steeped in tradition and with over 250 million people from more than 200 countries regularly playing, football can truly lay claim to its title of world game. Football is the most televised sport on the planet, and for the major sponsors outlaying billions of dollars each year, a way to reach those whose lives are inexorably connected to the round ball. Although the actual origins of football remain to this day a fiercely debated topic, evidence suggests that primitive ball games were played in Europe as early as the 9th century. Various regional versions were played following the Roman occupation, with earliest accounts from France dating back to 1147, and descriptions of ball games being played in England chronicled by William Fitzstephen in the late 12th century. He describes the activities of London youths during the annual festival of Shrove Tuesday. Varying codes of football were played at public schools and universities throughout England, when in the mid-19th century, efforts were made to standardise football across the country. The Cambridge rules were first drawn up at Trinity College, Cambridge in 1848. At a meeting attended by representatives from Eton, Harrow, Rugby, Winchester and Shrewsbury schools. Ongoing efforts to unify the code saw the formation of the Football Association, the FA. At the final meeting, the first FA treasurer, Blackheath's representative, withdrew his club from the FA over the removal of 2 draft rules, which allowed for running with the ball in hand and tripping, holding or hacking at the opponent's shins to prevent such a run. Other English rugby clubs followed and did not join the FA. All left and instead formed the Rugby Football Union in 1871. The 11 remaining clubs, under the charge of Ebenezer Cobb Morley, went on to ratify the original 13 laws of the game, on which the modern rules of football are based. The Sheffield FA, an early breakaway club, played by their own rules until the 1870s, with the FA absorbing some of its rules until there was little difference between the games. The current laws of the game are determined by the International Football Association Board, formed in 1866 after a meeting of the Football Association, the Scottish Football Association, the Football Association of Wales and the Irish Football Association. The inception of the Cambridge rules, which sought to clearly outline the laws differentiating between rugby union football and football itself, by eliminating running with the ball and tripping or hacking, was a defining moment in football's development. This restructuring and reformatting of the game led to the creation of the first of many professional football teams of the era. And now that the game was officially defined, crowd numbers at football stadiums of the day swelled to capacity. With football very much on the rise, Football Association Secretary Charles Alcock issued challenges in both the Glasgow and Edinburgh newspapers, resulting in a series of internationals between teams representing England and Scotland. The first of which took place on March the 5th, 1870 at the Oval, London. During these 5 matches, the last of which was played on February 24, 1872, it became apparent that all players selected for the Scottish side were from the London area, with one exception, R. Smith of Queen's Park Football Club, Glasgow. This caused much resentment in Scotland, as their team did not contain more homegrown players, with Alcock himself reiterating in the Scotsman newspaper that whatever the Scotch 11 may have been composed of, the competition was open to all Scotsmen, north or south of the Tweed, and the responsibility lay on the players of the north, not the management, who sought the services of all alike impartially. Apart from being instrumental in the formation of the Football Association and FA Secretary at the time, Charles Alcock was also captain of the English 11, who played by association rules, which may have been a reason for the lack of response to his original challenge, as different codes of football were played in Scotland at the time. Alcock then proceeded to offer another challenge with a Scottish team drawn from Scotland and proposed the north of England as a venue. In 1872, Queen's Park, Scotland's leading club, took up the challenge, and the match was arranged for St Andrew's Day at the West of Scotland Cricket Club ground in Patrick. All 11 Scottish players this time were selected from Queen's Park, and the first official international football match took place on November 30 in front of 4,000 spectators who paid a shilling each. The match finished in a 0-0 draw. With the increasing popularity of international fixtures, the need for a single body to oversee the worldwide game became apparent at the beginning of the 20th century. FIFA was founded in Paris on May 21, 1904. The French name and acronym remain, and its first president was Robert Guérin. FIFA presided over its first international competition in 1906 with little approval or success. Guérin was swiftly replaced, and the next tournament staged, football for the 1908 Olympics in London, was more successful. Even as membership expanded beyond Europe to include South Africa, Argentina, Chile, Canada and the United States, FIFA foundered during World War I, with many players sent off to war and the possibility of travel for international fixtures severely limited. Post-war, the organisation was run by Dutchman Karl Hirschman. It was saved from extinction, but at the cost of the withdrawal of the home nations of the United Kingdom, who were unwilling to participate in international competitions with their recent World War enemies. The home nations later resumed their membership. The International Federation of Association Football is the governing body of association football. It has 208 national associations among its membership, and the headquarters are located in Zurich. FIFA is responsible for the organisation and the governance of major international tournaments, most notably the FIFA World Cup, held since 1930. FIFA frequently takes active roles in the running of the sport and developing the game around the world. One of its unique policies is to suspend teams and associated members from international competition when a government interferes in the running of FIFA's associate member organisations, or if the associate is not functioning properly. The Football Association Challenge Cup, commonly known as the FA Cup, is a knockout cup competition in English football, run by and named after the Football Association. At a meeting held in the offices of the Sportsman in London on July 20, 1871, a proposal by FA Honorary Secretary Charles Alcock that it is desirable that a Challenge Cup should be established in connection with the association, for which all clubs belonging should be invited to compete, met with favour and was finally approved 3 months later. The first FA Cup competition was held in 1871-1872 and had 15 entries. This season, more than 700 took part. Manchester United have won the cup the most times, 11, followed by Arsenal 10 and Tottenham Hotspur 8. To date, 42 different clubs have won it. The competition is a knockout tournament with pairings for each round drawn at random. There are no seeds, and the draw for each round is not made until after the scheduled dates for the previous round. The draw also determines which teams will play at home. Each tie is played as a single leg. If a match is drawn, there is a replay, usually at the ground of the team who are away for the first game. Drawn replays are now settled with extra time and penalty shootouts, although until the 1990s, further replays would be played until one team was victorious. Some ties took as many as 6 matches to settle. In their 1975 campaign, Fulham played a total of 12 games over 6 rounds, which remains the most games played by a team to reach a final. Replays are no longer held for the semi-finals or finals. There are a total of 14 rounds in the competition, 6 qualifying rounds, followed by 6 further rounds, semi-finals and the final. The competition begins in August with the extra preliminary round, followed by the preliminary round and the first qualifying round, which are contested by the lowest ranked clubs. All clubs in the Premier League and Football League are automatically eligible, and clubs in the next 6 levels of the English football system are also eligible, provided they have played in either the FA Cup, FA Trophy or FA Vase competitions in the previous season. Newly formed clubs that start playing in a high league, such as AFC Wimbledon or FC United of Manchester, may not therefore play in the FA Cup in their first season. Being the oldest association football competition in the world, it does have a complex and involved qualifying structure. The main difference the FA Cup has over other cups is that any 2 teams from the hundreds that start round 1 can be pitched together, and any team can be potential victors. Because it involves clubs of all standards playing against each other, there is the possibility for minnows from a lower division to become giant killers by eliminating top clubs from the tournament and even theoretically winning the cup. In 1901, Tottenham Hotspur became the first team from outside the Football League to win the cup since the league was founded. The match was a 3-1 replay victory over Sheffield United. At the time, Tottenham Hotspur were playing in the Southern League and were only elected to the Football League in 1908. The then Football League consisted of only 2 18-team divisions, and Tottenham's victory would be comparable to a team playing on the 3rd level of the English Football Division winning today. They also became the first team to attach team colour ribbons to the trophy, a tradition which continues to this day. The first Wembley FA Cup final, played on April 28, 1923, was marred by disorderly scenes unparalleled in the history of football. Leading up to the match, a massive crowd outside the stadium rushed the gates, breaking through the barriers and swarming onto the pitch. Kick-off was delayed for 45 minutes as mounted police encouraged people to move behind the touchlines. PC George Scory on his white charged Billy was at the fore, hence the term White Horse Final. Bolton defeated West Ham 2-0, and the first Wembley goal was scored after 2 minutes by David Jack. An estimated 200,000 fans had squeezed into Wembley, and cup finals from that day on were made all ticket. The 1927 final resulted in a Cardiff City win over Arsenal. It was also the first ever cup final to be broadcast on the BBC, who produced a numbered grid of the pitch for Radio Times readers to follow the ball. This inventive idea gave rise to the popular myth of the origin of the phrase "back to square one," referring to a back pass to the goalkeeper. To the present day, Cardiff City are the only non-English based team to win the trophy. In 1931, West Bromwich Albion became the only team to win the FA Cup and to be promoted in the same season, defeating Birmingham City 2-1 in the final. Portsmouth hold the record for retaining the FA Cup the longest. After beating Wolverhampton Wanderers in the 1939 Cup final, the competition was not played until after World War II, meaning they held the Cup for nearly 7 years. Arguably one of the most famous of these upsets was when Sunderland AFC beat Leeds United 1-0 in 1973. Leeds were third in the first division and Sunderland were in the second. Three years later, second division Southampton also achieved the same feat as Sunderland against first division Manchester United by the same 1-0 scoreline. The other non-top flight teams to win the FA Cup since the inception of the league are Wolverhampton Wanderers in 1980, Barnsley in 1912 and West Bromwich Albion in 1931. So far, the FA Cup has never been contested by two teams from outside the top division. With the formation of FIFA in Paris in May 1904 and the sport's growing worldwide popularity, football was contested as an IOC-recognised sport at the 1904 Summer Olympics, before becoming an official FIFA-supervised Olympic competition at the 1908 Summer Olympics. In 1914, FIFA agreed to recognise the Olympic tournament as a World Football Championship for amateurs and took responsibility for organising the event. This led the way for the world's first intercontinental football competition at the 1920 Summer Olympics, won by Belgium. Uruguay won the tournaments in 1924 and 1928. In 1928, FIFA made the decision to stage their own international tournament. With Uruguay now two-time official football world champions, they were named the host country. And the inaugural World Cup was organised by FIFA President Jules Rimet. The national associations of selected nations were invited to send a team, but the choice of Uruguay as a venue for the competition meant a long and costly trip across the Atlantic Ocean for European sides. Rimet eventually persuaded teams from Belgium, France, Romania and Yugoslavia to make the trip. In total, 13 nations took part. The first goal in World Cup history was scored by Lucien Laurent of France. Uruguay defeated Argentina 4-2 in front of a crowd of 93,000 people in Montevideo and became the first nation to win a World Cup. With the onset of World War II and its aftermath, both the 1942 and 1946 tournaments were cancelled. Competition resumed with the 1950 World Cup in Brazil. The 1966 World Cup, hosted by England, was the first to embrace marketing, featuring a mascot and official logo for the first time. The trophy was stolen in the run-up to the tournament, but was found a week later by a dog named Pickles. The qualification stages of the 1970 World Cup were the cause of the football war between Honduras and El Salvador. The group stage clash between defending champions England and Brazil is still remembered for England goalkeeper Gordon Banks' save from a Pelé header on the 6-yard line. Arguably the greatest save ever. Brazil defeated Italy 4-1 in the final to become the first nation to win 3 World Cups and were awarded the Jules Rimet Trophy permanently for their achievement. In 1958, Brazil won the World Cup held in Sweden and became the first and so far only team to win a World Cup outside their home continent. The tournament also saw the emergence of Pelé, who scored 2 goals in the final. Pelé's first match in the 1958 World Cup was against USSR in the first round, and at the time the youngest player to play in a World Cup. He scored his first World Cup goal against Wales in the quarter-finals, helping Brazil advance to the semi-finals. The semi-final against France saw Pelé score a hat-trick, becoming the youngest in World Cup history to do so. Pelé went on to play in the 1962 World Cup, and in the first match against Mexico, where he assisted on the first goal and then scored the second to go 1-up. He then injured himself while playing against Czechoslovakia, which would keep him out of the rest of the tournament. Brazil went on to win their second World Cup title, and Pelé was awarded a medal retrospectively, years later for his contribution. After refusing to join the national team for the 1970 tournament, Pelé scored in the final, with Brazil ultimately winning 4-1. With Brazil laying claim to the most World Cup trophies, 5 victories in 1958, 62, 70, 94 and 2002, along with having played the most World Cup games at 92, it's no surprise that Ronaldo holds the record for the most World Cup goals scored. He has a total of 15 to date, passing the previous record held by West Germany's Gerd Müller by 1. Ronaldo is without doubt a stellar talent, and could possibly outscore Just Fontaine of France's record of 13 goals in one World Cup. The World Cup has long inspired fans. Today, each confederation has brought some of that glory to its own soil, including the USA in 1994. Asia in 2002, and Europe in 2006, which led people to wonder who will host the World Cup in 2010.
I discovered it with you. Connu? The 2010 FIFA World Cup will be organized in South Africa.
The eyes of the football world will be firmly fixed on South Africa in 2010, as new levels of excitement, passion and football skill are reached.